time you into prayer and these things?
Not really.
It was Moses and his people during the Exodus.
You know,
Told by God, this is now your promised land.
you know, I got
Moses could
like
not
most
enter it
people because
because
religion
his
spread
people
through
were
families.
on the path of
That's
starting
the predominant
So they had the same
sort of
level of
vehicle
years until that
in
that
which
rebellious generation
religious
died,
doctrines
so much so that Moses
sort of
could not
spread
even enter Jerusalem.
through
you-
childhood and then through. That's reinforced through family links and community links and
Then they went
societal links.
Isn't that true of any belief that it's spread through family, whether it's atheism or Islam or Christianity?
No, my family, you know, I come from an African family, heavily religious, unfortunately. Christianized, you know, a couple of members of Islam as well.
And then
You know, so these are the effects of colonialism, imperialism. These are the effects of.
But I'm sure religion existed amongst the African people before
Absolutely.
colonization and imperialism.
Absolutely.
Like Christianity in Ethiopia has been there.
No,
well
I'm
before.
not even talking about Christianity. I mean, Christianity is a relatively new religion. It's not, you know, it's not that old actually. To be fair, it's been around for, you know, arguably in its present form for about sort of 1,500 years. Really, it's not a you know, in 1800 years. You know. Islam even less. You know, so these are not new phenomena. You know, Africans, you know, sub-Saharan Africans, West Africans have had their own traditions, had their own spiritual beliefs and religions, and, you know, so these got subsumed, as I say, with, you know, colonialism and invasion.
Well, the thing about
and,
colonization is that you could argue,
imperialism.
yeah, but the same applies for atheism, because what atheists did is that when they had power, they forcibly converted people to disbelief. The communists did this in China, the Soviets did this, the communists in Europe did this, and you know, before we got into this topic, you spoke about bloodshed, you spoke about the toxic effects of religion. Well, atheism's no better, because more people have died under atheist rule than have died in all of the religious wars.
It's impossible.
So I'll give you a stat. 100 million people at least died under communist regimes in the last 100 years. And 100 million people have not died in religious wars throughout human history.
Yes, they have. More, actually.
How?
Far more.
How?
Well, you've got to take the First and Second World War, started by, you know, Christians and religious advocates.
Are you saying they were religious wars?
Well, they weren't religious wars per se, but they were committed and instigated by religious people.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, Hitler was not a Christian.
Absolutely, he was a Christian. He was a kind of warped, sort of, kind of sectarian, Protestant mishmash of occultism and Christianity. But it was definitely a Christian. He was definitely believed in God. He wasn't an atheist or some sort of pantheist. He was a God believer.
So let's look at the instigators.
Let's carry on with the numbers, because your numbers are, I mean, from my perspective, completely spurious. So we've got religious countries starting the First and Second World War, mass killing, mass murder on a grand scale. Then you've got, prior to that, mass colonialism, millions, millions across Africa, across Asia, exploited and used by religious instigators.
So you've gone to colonization, but let's stick to the First and Second World War.
Yes.
You're saying these were religious wars?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they were instigated by countries that subscribe to a belief in a deity and a god.
Okay,
and they claim that, and on different levels, they would claim that they had a mandate from their god to do what they did.
That's not the history of the first two world wars.
No.
That had nothing to do with it.
Well, you have to look at the people and the institutions that instigated these wars, and the foundations on which they
were territorial wars.
derive their power.
No, they were territorial wars. They were not.
Of course
they were
they
not
were.
wars because of religion.
Of course they were. No. But they were religious, God-believing advocates. That was the foundation of their.
Not really.
Yes,
I mean,
they are.
okay, but look,
Yes, they were.
let's go back to the stat that I started off with, and let's just stick on, say, one person.
And what, and
Chairman Mao killed
hold on,
80 million people.
Well,
First and Second World War, 80 million people did not die.
Hold on. Well, we'll come back to that because I want to know where you got your statistics from. Actually,
These are well established.
No. We'll come back to that. I'm not
So
going to let you just
the Cultural Revolution, the Great Leap Forward,
okay.
the conservative
Okay.
estimates are going to tens of millions.
No.
This is well known.
No. If you're talking about the Cultural Revolution during the 60s, from the late 50s that ran out onto sort of the mid 70s, a lot of people died.
How many do you think?
Around sort of 10 to 20 million.
Okay,
Right.
I think it's more than that, but let's stick to 10 to 20 million.
10 to 20 million.
And he was an
right?
atheist, Chairman Mao?
He was an atheist, yes.
Yeah,
He
so
was.
your initial point that religions are the cause of violence, you can see here that an atheist is killing millions of his own people.
No, that wasn't. They're not just the cause of violence. My contention to you was that they promote a lack of critical thinking, non-thinking, a lack of skepticism, and this kind of mass credulity, basically.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Why didn't the atheists come up with the scientific method, if that's the case? Why was it that the science was advanced by theists until recently?
Well, science is a methodology. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's the people. Most of the people. Well, if you're talking about Europeans, the early Europeans in the early part of the what they would call the scientific enlightenment were religious. Yeah, I mean, I think they were religious in a cultural sense.
But that's not the genesis of science.
No, it's not the genesis.
That's
of science.
late. That's late.
No. The genesis of science is the need to survive in our environment. That's the genesis of the science. It's not. It's not inspired by some sort of magic entity. It's the need to advance and survive in our environment. That is by and large hostile to us. So we've needed to find ways to navigate and conquer and survive in environments that would otherwise kill us. So,
that's not the definition of science, though.
Well, that's definitely one of the definitions.
No,
of
it's
science.
not.
Science is the process of finding practical, empirical, real-time solutions to real problems, real physical problems. Right?
That's a bit too vague. Let's define science first, because what I'm trying to get to is that the scientific torch was not held by atheists. It was held by theists for a long time in history. So first we need to define science. So science is the application of reason to a natural world, in which you use observations to come up with theories, and you test those theories against observations. You try and falsify until you have a confirmed set of beliefs. You have a confirmed set of things that you can put together in a broader theory. So this basic idea is not something which was put forward by atheists. This is something which only in the 20th century and the 21st century have atheists woken up and said, actually, we are quite a scientifically literate people. Prior to this, it was the Muslims, and then it was the Christians, and atheists came late at the party, but they want to claim they're behind this.
Atheists have been there's been atheists since.
Just about 10 minutes.
Atheists have been, around since the emergence and the progression of man.
But they haven't produced much, though.
Yes, we have.
Science, we agree, was a theistic venture.
No, it's not. No, it's a human. It's a human.
And those humans happen to be theists.
Well, if you're talking about ancient agrarian religions of all types, not just.
I'm actually talking about the genesis of science, which goes back to theists. It doesn't go back to atheists.
Well, you could probably get away with your definition of science from a philosophical point of view, right? In a strictest term, but I'm talking about science in a pragmatic way, in the real sense of the word, in the real sense of the process, which is solving, which is finding ways and finding solutions to solve real problems in the real world. Right? That's how science progresses. It's not some sort of ethereal concept. Science is purely materialistic. Right? And it deals with real material problems, right? So, whether it doesn't matter what belief systems, people in South America had, that created had all sorts of scientific innovations that believed in completely different gods, or North America, that again had all sorts of scientific innovations in order to allow them to survive in their environment, had their own type of gods. The type of science that you found in Africa, that allowed the people to thrive in their environment. Science is the application of finding solutions and finding mechanisms for us to survive and thrive in any given environment. It's not a sort of a philosophical sort of bubble that people that subscribe to. And theists negate the fact that try and bypass the fact that it's humans that find those solutions. Don't rely on magic, invisible entities to bestow us with solutions. We find those solutions through trial and error, through testing, through observation, through experience. And
I'm not following your logic here, because I didn't make the argument that you need to believe in God in order to do science. I never said that.
Well, okay, so now you seem to be eating your words.
What do you
seem
mean?
to be eating your words.
No.
Yes.
I made the argument that the genesis of science and the torchbearers of science throughout history were theists.
No.
That's just a fact. So, well, you can disagree with it, but your feelings don't affect facts. The facts stay as facts.
And Islam, being one of the sort of newer religions, had very, very little to do with science.
That's absolutely not true.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll give you an example. I'll give you
it's-
evidence, because you're speaking from your experience, but I'm going to give you evidence. Okay. So Hassan ibn Haytham, he was a Muslim theologian and a scientist. He lived about 1,000 years ago, and he is the one who helped us modernize the scientific method. So if you go look up the history of science, you will see he is mentioned as somebody who developed not just scientific ideas, but the scientific method itself. And this goes back way before Galileo, Newton, and Bacon, and all of these guys. So the history of science and the infusion of philosophical concepts to help enhance science was done by Muslims for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And for you to downplay their contribution just simply shows your lack of knowledge of this historical era.